Hey guys, over the last couple of years, I've had loads of people ask me how they can support the show, and now you can. So if you like this show and you want to support it and you want to keep it free, head on over to everyonelovesguitar.com/support. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/support. Thanks for all you do. If you're a business owner and you want to increase your cash flow, or if you're a label or artist and you want to promote new music, then listen up. For information about advertising on Everyone Loves Guitar, including information on geographically targeted ads, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. Hey guys, I got to tell you a quick story. I recently put in a pair of EMG pickups into my Les Paul Classic, and tinkering with electronics, wires, not my bag. That being said, a little over an hour later, I'd installed the pickups with literally no problems at all. And the quality of the sound is absolutely amazing. I put in the retroactive Fat 55s. That's a new set that they have, and that's because I wanted a vintage, British Brown sound. And these Fat 55s are modeled after the tone of the classic PAFs, which is exactly what I got. The thing I wasn't expecting is it sort of feels like my volume and tone knobs have been expanded to 20. There's like a lot more responsiveness in the volume and tone, and I could even get harmonics now at low volumes on the neck pickup, and any preconceived notions I had about installation being difficult or, there's a problem having a battery in there were totally wrong. The battery thing, it's like putting a battery in one of my kids' toys when they were little children growing up. It's just a total non-issue. And in fact, I'm going to wind up getting the Strat set next because installation for that is even easier because it comes with the pick guard and the pickup's already attached to the pick guard. And if you want to check out EMGs for yourself, now's actually a great time to do this because Rob and Allison are making a special offer available for listeners of this show only. And here it is. For a limited time, head on over to emgpickups.com, buy one or more sets of pickups, and enter ELG in the discount code section of the shopping cart. ELG, of course, for Everyone Loves Guitar. And they're going to give you 15% off, which is huge. The biggest discounts they ever give is 10%. Plus, they're going to give away $70 worth of free bonuses, including an EMG cinch bag, a pick tin, lanyards, stickers, and a t-shirt. Plus, you get a money-back guarantee if you're not 100% satisfied. Plus, not a 2-year performance guarantee on the performance of the actual pickups themselves, but a lifetime performance guarantee. And on top of everything else, you're going to get free shipping. So there's basically no risk at all here for you to try a set or two of EMG pickups. And the great thing about these pickups is, and I got 2 sets, once you install them, and by the way, there's no soldering involved at all, because I couldn't have done it if there was, quite frankly. But once you do install them, all you need to do to swap them out and put another set in is literally disconnect one wire on each pickup, and then you're done. That's it. It's kind of like putting Legos together. It's that easy. So go to emgpickups.com, enter ELG in the shopping cart for your discount code, and that's it. You get to take advantage of this offer right now. Man, this one's always a big challenge. If you want to buy or sell a home or investment property and you're here in the Tampa Bay area, in Hillsborough, Pinellas, or Pasco counties, then listen up. West Florida Real Estate is a local residential real estate broker that's helped over 250 Bay Area homeowners buy and sell their properties in the last 4 years alone. If you're looking to sell, you'll want to get their free report, The 7 Biggest Mistakes Homeowners Make When Hiring a Realtor. And if you're looking to buy a property, you definitely want to get your hands on the 21 Most Expensive Mistakes Tampa Home Buyers Make When Buying a Home. Each one of these reports is going to save you time and money. Inside, you'll discover the 7 most important things to consider when hiring a realtor, what to do if you're buying and selling a home at the same time, and the danger of choosing a realtor who agrees with everything you say. To get your hands on these free reports, head on over to westfloridarealestate.com. That's westfloridarealestate.com. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. Man, I'm so happy to have my guest today. Just a brilliant musician, a brilliant mind, extremely successful, and a very straight shooter, which most of all I like. We're with the one and only Bill Champlin, and I'll tell you, in case you don't know who Bill is, I'll tell you about him in a minute, but I just want to say a quick shout out. Thank you to my main man and our friend Ed Roth for connecting us. Bill's a founding member of the legendary San Francisco band Sons of Champlin and an incredible songwriter with 13 Grammy nominations and 3 wins. He has wins for co-writing After the Love Is Gone, of course, by Earth, Wind & Fire, which he co-wrote with Jay Graydon and David Foster. He co-wrote Turn Your Love Around for George Benson with Jay Graydon and Steve Lukather. And he got the best pop vocal performance with Chicago singing If You Leave Me Now. He formed the Sons of Champlin, which still performs today. If you don't know the band, they're a great rock, like just an amazing rock and funk band with horns. Really funky, greasy, just really cool stuff. He was a member of Chicago from 1981 to 2009, singing lead and background vocals, playing guitar and keyboards, co-writing many songs and singing some of their biggest hits. In addition to his work with Chicago, Bill was especially in demand for his singing, appearing on hundreds of recordings throughout the 70s and 80s. Artists he worked with, and this is just like a pimple on the elephant's ass here, include Al Jarreau, Boz Scaggs, The Tubes, Lee Ritenour, Amy Grant, Patti LaBelle, Lou Rawls, Elton John, Donna Summer, Nancy Wilson, George Benson, Neil Diamond, and Kenny Rogers. In 1988, Bill's voice appeared prominently on several major hit singles, including Look Away, I Don't Want to Live Without Your Love, and You're Not Alone from Chicago 19. That year, he also sang the theme to the television show In the Heat of the Night. Great soundtrack. Great song that was. He wrote, produced, and sang lead on Hearts in Trouble, which is a song for the movie soundtrack of Days of Thunder. His latest album is called Bleeding Secrets. It's a great record. It really rocks. Great playing, incredible mastering and engineering on that thing. It's just beautiful and great songwriting. Bill, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate you coming on the show.
You know, most of that stuff was good, but there was one thing you had singing "If You Leave Me Now." That definitely wasn't me. That was Peter Cetera's.
Oh, that was. I don't know why. Okay.
And somehow it snuck in there. And Wikipedia gets it wrong quite often.
Sorry about that.
I wasn't even in the band when that came out, but what a gorgeous song.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got 2 Grammys or 3
Peter
Grammys?
outdid himself on that one, you know. And I got two R&B Songs of the Year Grammys for Earth, Wind and Fire and George Benson.
Yeah.
And then a handful of one or two what do they call them, MVPs for background vocals.
Very cool. Well, yeah, man, you're all over the internet and of course the internet is always correct, but you're all over the internet for everything related to background vocals.
Somebody handed me a discography one time. I didn't even pay attention. I just went, hey, I got another gig, go sing it. Oohs and ahs for rent is what we used to call it. And I just, for some reason, for about 4 or 5 years, I was just cranking like crazy. Just had a lot of gigs. It's funny because I told my dad, I said, Dad, I just moved to L.A. and I'm working like crazy. I'm doing everything. He says, just remember the definition of an expert's a guy from the next county.
Yeah, that's right. The out-of-town expert.
Bill, save your money. There will be another guy coming along who's newer than you. And sure enough, that's exactly the way it worked.
Was your dad in the music business? What did he do?
No, he was actually a judge, a lawyer and a judge. He passed away in '98, I think. He was just, you know, he's one of those guys that came up with phrases like that, you know, PhD, pilot higher and deeper.
Yeah, man, that one I've heard.
That was my dad, you know.
What prompted you moved to LA from Oakland? What prompted you to go there?
There was no money in Marin County. There was just, we had, you know, the Sons had I had tried like crazy with the Sons to try to get over the hump. We had record deals, we did everything, and it seems like with the Sons, I mean, I said it years ago on a record once. I said every time opportunity knocked, we answered the phone. We just could never get over that first or second hump, you know.
Yeah.
So we top billed the Doobies, we top billed Creedence, we top billed all of these different bands, and just watch them go right past us and go through the roof, and we just kind of never did, you know. I think a lot of it is we were smoking so much dope at the time we didn't pay attention to our own careers.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, and it wasn't, you know, at the time Marin County was. If you were thinking about your career, you were going against the grain of the high, you know, whatever that meant. You know what I mean? I was kind of went. Marin County was sort of. This was sort of at the time. This was sort of Marin County. It's like, hey man, just remember, I'm way more egoless than you.
That's
sort
pretty
of what
funny.
I saw, and then around that point when I realized that was rampant, I just said I moved to LA. We'd already done an album down here with the Sons, with Keith Olsen producing, And Keith had turned me on to this young string arranger who was around town named David Foster. So I worked with David. Next thing you know, David and I were writing together, and then he started producing, calling me in as a vocal ringer. And then when it came time for me to do a solo album, I just said, hey, I know a guy who's a really good, a good producer. And the people that had signed me said, nah, he's just a piano player.
David?
I said, no, yeah, they said that about him. And I said, guys, you're wrong. This guy's going to be a major producer, and before you know it, he was, But they were like, oh no, he's just a session guy. And people have a tendency to, at least in this business in L.A. especially, they take a snapshot of you, and whenever your name is mentioned, no matter what you've done with your career, whenever your name is mentioned, instead of talking to you, they pull out the snapshot and talk to their snapshot.
So you get pigeonholed.
Yeah, people just pigeonhole everybody, and David was kind of pigeonholed as a really great piano player and a great session arranger and string arranger and stuff, but nobody really saw him as a producer, and I did. I mean, this guy's gonna fly, and the proof's in the pudding.
Oh yeah, man! Wow. Yeah. When you first got to LA, so is that how you started getting all the session work through David?
Well, kind of through David, and Jay Graydon was a friend of mine, and both those guys were going out doing basics, playing on the basics around town. And both of them right off, for a little while at any rate, they were just saying to the producers, hey, when it comes time to do background vocals, give this guy a call, and I'd give him my number.
Okay.
And so they got me, Jay and David really kind of got me my first gigs. And then the work I did on my first gigs got me the second gig. So, I mean, I didn't go down there. I didn't come to L.A. with the plan of becoming a background singer, But all God's children got rent,
Yeah, man.
I had a couple kids. I
God's
didn't really have a
children
lot
got
of stuff going on. So it seemed like, what am I going to do? Walk away from, sit home and watch TV and hope for the big break to come, or go work on a record, So and so consequently I ended up doing so many of those things that I kind of became somewhat proficient at arranging and putting together background vocals that's why whenever I do my own records, as a rule, they're usually pretty vocal heavy. There's a lot of vocal stuff going on.
Yeah, and they're all and everything's layered like literally perfectly, man. It's like
Well, I mean, I learned a lot from David Foster just in terms of how to put things together. I mean, I kind of watched his hands for piano, but I mean, he's Greg Matheson said of David one time, he's the best pop piano player on the earth, and boy, he was absolutely right. He's a really beautiful piano player. Whenever his career as a producer kind of goes into a slump, those 10 fingers bring him right back every time.
Yeah.
There's an artist comes along and needs somebody like that, and David's the guy. There's a handful of guys. David, Michael Omardian, David Page, a handful of cats. Randy Kerber. There were a handful of cats in that era that were just insane piano players and just very adept musicians. It was one of the reasons why what we call West Coast music happened, was because of those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's the reputation. I mean, I think people pretty much give him credit. You're not the only one, I think, who says that or feels that way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everybody. Anybody who's ever been in the room with him saw him sit down at a piano and goes, oh, my God, look at that guy.
What was it? Did you work a lot with Luke, or was that the only situation?
I worked with Luke off and on. I mean, he played on my solo records a lot. We co-wrote the title tune of the Runaway album.
Okay.
I've just worked with Luke off and on over the years. He came in, did a lot of stuff with Chicago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, me and Luke have known each other. I mean, I think the first time I happened to be in town with the Sons, and Foster was producing something. And we were a lot of different people were hanging out at the session. And let's do some backgrounds. And it ended up being on the microphones, me and Luke. Luke was, I think, 18.
Wow.
He's still 18. And then,
I had him on the show. I think you're right.
Steve's a sweetie pie. I mean, Luke's
great guy.
Nobody like him on the earth. What a talent! He's a great drummer. He's a great piano player. I mean, he played piano on the original "Turn Your Love Around."
Oh wow!
On the demo, the thing that we put together that we played for George, and George went, "Let's cut it. Let's go for it."
Yeah. He was very kind to me.
Pardon me?
He was very kind to me when I had him on the show.
He's a really sweet guy. Yeah. Just generally a really sweet guy.
Let me ask you, I'm going to talk about different artists that you work with. If you could tell me how you got the gig and talk about maybe a cool or interesting story about working with them. I'm sure you got 100 stories here. Let's start with Chicago.
Well, I was working on the Rittenhour, the Rit album, until really late at night. We were doing backgrounds until the shit o'clock. I mean, it was like really late. And I drove home. I got a call at like 9 a.m. from Angelo, this friend of mine who's a singer who I had worked with years before on his solo record when he was actually signed to Fantasy Records up in San Francisco. So I kind of did the vocals. Mike Stewart was doing the record. So we kind of, became friends and stuff like that. He called me and says, hey, I'm doing some demos. I don't have any money, but I really love it if you could come sing on it. And the demos are being produced by Danny Serafin. I said, I know Danny. I know of him. And he said, I was kind of trying to snake out of it. I said, man, I got a really bad cold. He says, well, Pete said the same thing. I said, Pete, who's Pete? He said, Peter Cetera. He said the same thing, but he's going to come do it. And I went, so I would be singing with Peter Cetera. He said, yes, man, I like that guy's voice. I'll be there. I might be a little snotty, but I'll be there.
Right. So
I showed up at the session and we worked out a couple parts and went to the microphone. And the minute we sang together, everybody in the booth, just their jaws dropped and went, whoa, dig this blend. How cool is this blend? So Danny kept it in mind. And the next thing you know, Danny called me and says, hey, let's write a song. So we wrote a song together.
Danny Serafin.
Danny Serafin, yeah. We wrote a song together, and then they had a practice at Danny's little studio at his house in Westlake. And they had a practice. He said, could you come out and teach the guys the song? So I came out and taught them the song. And I listened to some of their other songs, and there was some stuff there, but it wasn't really slamming. It wasn't really going on. And I basically, went, well, okay, well, here's this song. See if I can throw it in a thing. Maybe get on a Chicago record. But they were in the middle of a slump at that time. It wasn't really going on. And Danny called me and says, listen, I got something I got to ask you. Do you think David Foster would be a good thing for us, a good producer for us? And I said, yeah, because most people think Foster put me in the band. It's kind of the other way around.
Yeah.
At some point I said, yeah, but I think a lot of the material you have, maybe even including the song you and I wrote, might end up getting tossed, go on the garbage heap and go for better songs, or at least more accessible pop songs. So Danny, so I went, they had learned a song called Sonny Think Twice. They had learned that, and then they were in the, they eventually hooked up with David Foster. We were in the studio. We cut it. I played piano on it. I kind of met the guys in the band. Next thing you know, I get a call from Danny. He said, we really need another guy. We need a third guy. And I had been offered the guitar chair like a couple of years before, right after Terry had died. And I went, right. I'm not that good a guitar player. I got one good solo, but that's count of one,
Yeah.
And there's no way I'm filling those shoes. I'm not that guy. Piano, another story. I can play a little better. Organ, I'm way deep into the B3. But at the time, guitar was at the bottom of my list of things that I do. So anyway, so they ended up getting Donnie Dacus, and that was a cool move for a little while. So then they were in this situation where they were in there with Foster. They were cutting the album, I think, out of their pension fund or something. I don't think they really weren't signed to anybody when they cut the album.
Wow.
But they called me and asked me if I wanted to join. It was a 16 album. If I wanted to join the band, told me, you'll sing some of Terry's songs like Make Me Smile. I said, well, that's good. I like that song. Like Color My World. I'll have to get back to you.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, I said, man, I got to get back to you on that. I'm not sure if that's really going on. I sang it for a long time. Eventually, Lamb took it over, But so, I kind of went and had a meeting with him. And at one point, I think Panko was saying, hey, you got to remember that we're a family. We're not really even a band. We're a family. And I said, guys, I got my own family. If this is happening for me, I got to look at it. I can't look at it as family. I got to look at it as a musical project. And Cetera went, you're hired. Enough. I said, I just did a family, and it broke up my band, Sons.
Yeah.
I looked at it as a family, and it ended up being, families don't get along. Try any Thanksgiving meal.
Well, you know what do they say? You could choose your friends, you can't choose your family, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I just said, hey, let's just look at it as a musical project that we're doing together. And we did. And it kind of ended up being a cool thing, at least for the 3 years that I worked with Peter.
Right.
And then Peter eventually bailed out. I think he had a better shot as a solo artist. And he did. He did well. He had a couple of #1 records right on the heels of it.
He's still touring. Or he was last year.
I think he's kind of taking a break this year.
Yeah, because he was out with Chris Rodriguez.
It's kind of like, oh, man, the airports and hotels are kind of getting to me, and believe me, I understand.
And so
he's a good guy. He really is a good guy. What an amazingly great singer he is.
When you said
and bass player, he's a great bass player too. Peter's a giant piece of work as far as I'm concerned. I always thought of him as one of the greats.
When you said to them, listen, I want to approach this more like a business than a family.
Well, not a business, but a musical project.
Yeah, a musical project.
Yeah.
And I kind of, that's like a little more practical. It made it more, did it make it like less emotionally vested for you or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes.
It was funny. There was one point there with the band. We'd go to this one bowling alley every Wednesday at 11 for a while when we had a long break.
Right.
Everybody went, and we went bowling. It's the most fun I ever had with the band.
We went bowling on Wednesdays.
Because I'm a shitty bowler. Whoops, there goes Bill sliding down the lane. Whoops,
that's funny, man.
It was really funny, and then all of a sudden, all the fans started to hear about it. And the next thing you know, we were back in the fishbowl and had to bail on it. But it was really a fun thing to do. We really had a ball doing it. Just as a bunch of friends, just it was like a bowling league, and somehow it
bowling league.
Yeah, it was really fun. I mean, we had a ball doing it. I don't know why. I mean, bowling's not exactly the most glamorous rock and roll, glam thing, but we all had a ball doing it, and it was just something we did occasionally. It was really a kick.
I'm sure you got 100 stories. What's like a knee-jerk rock and roll story that's kind of funny or interesting that happened?
Okay, we had a Learjet. We're basing out in New York City, flying out of Teterboro, and we had a Learjet. We flew into Shenandoah Valley.
Okay.
We get in there, and in the place that we go to the Butler Aviation, which is right next to U.S. Air. We play the gig. There's a van. We go play a college or something. We do the gig. We come back. We got to push the plane over in the middle of the night. We got to push the plane, a Learjet.
What?
We got to push it. Oh, it wasn't our Learjet. We just had it for just 1 or 2 gigs. We had to push the plane over to U.S. Air to get a jump.
Holy crap!
If you could believe that, and nobody had a camera. There was not. I mean, it was before cell phones.
Sure.
With cameras in them, nobody had a camera, and it was just all of us just pushing this plane. At one point, we were all pushing the plane, and Panko was facing the other way, having a pee on the thing
on the tarmac.
This is starting to look like what was the Baja Marimba Band record cover, which always had one guy facing backwards. It was
crap.
It was just insane. I was just going, welcome to the glamorous world of rock and roll, where we
push our own planes.
You mean nobody brought jumper cables for the Learjet?
Yeah.
I always thought that was a major rock and roll moment. Hey, never forget. Sometimes you're gonna have to hitchhike to get your ass out of trouble. It's the way it is.
No, totally, man. What would be your biggest takeaways, good or bad, or both, out of the 30 years working with Chicago?
Well, I kind of learned what not to do, and I had to learn that you're how do I put this? If you are in a situation where you're considering your own success based on your bank account, you're missing the point.
Okay, expand on that.
Well,
it's really good.
I don't have anywhere near a bank account of any of the original guys in that band. I mean, they had 15 albums before me, and they had about 2 or 3 giant eras of bringing home the bacon. All of that's fine and dandy, but I just found that everybody was like, well, the I'm rich thing meant a lot to a lot of people, and it never meant anything to me. I don't really care. What I do care, I mean, and I'm within certain circles, I'm known and respected around the world. and it had nothing to do with the bank account. But I consider myself highly successful in that I don't think anybody, other than those guys, I don't think anybody has any bad thing to say about me.
That's funny. Other than those guys.
Other than those guys, yeah, they decided to, they had to pin a lot of their problems on somebody, so it happened to be me at that point of the game.
Right.
It was somebody else earlier, So neither here nor there.
When
I was unhappy. I mean, I had been pretty unhappy with it for the last 10 years, just the direction it was going and what it was doing. And let's play it like the record. I want you to sound like somebody else. As a singer, it started to get to me. It's like I sing like I sing. I don't sing like anybody else. It's not what I do. I'm not a takedown guy.
Well, also to do that once is okay. To do that 200 nights a year, not so much. Not so much.
Yeah,
I totally understand that.
So I mean, it was maybe it was what they really needed was a sideman as opposed to a real member.
All right.
So at some level, I mean, they eventually went, that's enough. You're too unhappy. And they were right. They made the right move, I think.
Yeah. What good things, like growth-wise, personal development-wise, or just something good came out of that for you?
Well,
besides a huge book, a great book of work.
I made enough money to put my kid through Berkeley.
Yeah. That says a lot.
And I built a handful of studios. I did a handful of, it sort of kind of financed my own musical thing. Because if you're just doing the same 12 to 25 songs and nothing but that, and that's all you're doing. I mean, there was one point where the management suggested when 17 was done, don't play any of this live. And Cetera went, you're out of your mind. I don't want to not play our hits. And I'm not stupid enough to go, we're going to just play our new album because that's for
it's
many
not why
bands.
People are coming to the show.
Yeah, it's turned out to be a wrong move. But you want to play at least 2 or 3 songs from the new album just to let people know that you believe in it too.
Oh yeah.
If you don't play it at all, if you don't play any at all, you're saying we made an album, we don't believe in it.
Yeah.
And people don't buy it. So 17, it went on to be a pretty big record for them. For that band, and David, and a good portion of that was David and Peter writing stuff together, and they came up with some pretty cool music.
It's interesting. I saw them in concert like 2 or 3 years ago, and they didn't play any. They played like Chicago, like some obscure, like the
There
whole.
was one point where they went out on a tour. This is what I'm told. They went on a tour, and all they did was Chicago 2.
Yeah, and I was like, what?
Well, now when Stevie Wonder goes out and plays the songs in the key of life in its entirety, it's one thing.
Right.
Chicago doing Chicago 2, it's another thing.
Right. It wasn't like an album with it wasn't like, songs in the key of life or, the Yes album with Roundabout on it. It was not, it was like pretty.
Or Def Leppard's record.
Yeah. Pyromania. Right.
Yeah. Every song on it's a number one hit.
Yeah.
Almost every. I think there was one that wasn't, but man,
yeah, it's seven number one hits on there.
Yeah, insane. I'm not really sure what.
Yeah, it was weird.
I mean, after I left, I kind of turned around and I'm not going to sit there and go, well, those guys did this and those guys did that.
No, that doesn't serve you.
None of my fucking business.
No, that doesn't serve.
Dude, they can do whatever. They can do whatever they want. I don't really care. I mean, it's some level. I mean, I had a weird dream one time. I said, what happens if, you finish every night with 25 or 6 to 4. I said, what if I'm on my deathbed and I can't get out of my head? You know what I mean? How many times I get on the bus and I still got that wafting through my brain? It's like, I'm not sure. It's just, it becomes this big.
Yeah, I understand.
Make sure you fit into the slot. And in a marketing sense, it's probably good to have something this big. I mean, it used to be the record business would get an artist, a la, say, for instance, Bob Dylan or Aretha Franklin, and they would build a marketing campaign around the artist.
Right. Now
they build the artists around the marketing campaign.
Yeah, man. That's really.
They have the existing marketing campaign. This is where it's going to be selling. Write songs for that market. And I think that's one of the reasons why, it's just in a sense, if you're looking at it as a marketing team, it's easier. You don't have to keep coming. You don't have to be creative as as marketers, and you're trying to market music. So, but I think a lot of it is making the music. You're hearing music start to sound alike. Everything sounds alike. But at the same time, I'm not going to be one of those old guys that goes, I hate the new music these days. There's a lot of great stuff out there. It's just a matter of digging through it to find it.
Well, the amount of stuff you have to dig through and the accessibility to dig through, everything's out in front now. It used to be when we were younger or, years ago, when you wanted alternative stuff, you turn on some college radio stations and that's it. Yeah. Now, it's just, it's everything's in front of you. So you just have a lot of waiting to do because there's so many more genres that, you just got to dig through it to find the good stuff, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's just some rock bands that are great. I mean, I got satellite radio, which is cool, and there's a channel on it called Octane, and most of the singers sing like, but boy, are there some guitar players and drummers on these records.
Yeah.
They're just insane players, Yeah. And I like to just check out and see what those guys are doing. I mean, it's all music. I mean, I was told years ago is it never stop stealing. I said, no, you gotta, explain that. He says, if you hear something somebody does, do it. Just don't steal from the one guy.
Right.
Steal from everybody. If Willie Nelson did a vocal lick that you like, put it in your holster. If Lou Rawls did one, put it in your holster. If somebody else did one, put it in, and eventually you have enough things, you forget where you stole it, and the next thing you know, you've got your own style.
Yeah. Wow.
You've developed your own style. Quincy said it years ago. There's 12 notes.
Right.
We use them all. We all use them. There's only 12 notes. Yeah.
Talk about Boz Scaggs. How'd you get connected with Boz, and a cool or interesting story about working with him?
Well, it's kind of an easy one. That David Lasley, who's really a great singer, and Lasley was with James Taylor for a long time. One of the better singers around town. And Lasley just called me and says, hey, we got a Boz gig coming up, and it'll be you and me and Luther Vandross.
Holy crap.
So I said, well, okay, I'm there in the New York minute. And Luther hadn't really hit.
He wasn't Luther Vandross as of that yet, I would imagine.
Not quite at that point, but he was really well known in the New York scene as a singer. He showed up. He did There's Nothing Like a Roller Coaster Ride. He had a pretty decent apartment in New York based on like Wrigley Spearmint gum. You know what I mean?
Oh, doing jingles.
It's like Patty Austin said she made more on Reuniti than she did on her solo record.
That's funny, man. Reuniti.
Yeah, and so we did 4 or 5 gigs with Lasley and Luther, and then there was something. David called me and says, "Hey man, since you're in town, since everybody's kind of hanging out, you want to go do some backgrounds on a Leo Sayer record." So it was me and David and Luther, and I had a ball singing with them. They were really funny guys. I mean, and David Lasley has one of the. He's got this middle falsetto that's just round and fat and big and just beautiful. He's a gorgeous singer. Great singer.
Who's the guitar player on that Leo Sayer gig, if you remember?
I have no idea. We just went in and overdubbed on a vocal.
Okay. I was in studio.
I think we were at 55, Richard Perry's studio.
Gotcha.
And we just, we had a ball.
Was Luke on that Boz Scaggs gig?
I don't, it was the Boz Scaggs record. It turned out that we did, maybe 4 songs on Middleman album. And
okay.
I don't have the album. That shows you how stupid I am. Although Boz,
you don't have any.
Boz's new record, by the way, is a kick.
Is it?
How could you have Radiator on it that just grooves like a big nasty dog biting you in the leg? It's just unbelievably great. It's just, Boz was always a blues guy.
Yeah.
So I kind of like him. I kind of like his playing and his singing when he's down a little lower. He's a little more relaxed and he's just singing bluesy stuff. And man, he's good.
Hey man, 4 words: loan me a dime. That's it, right? I mean, that's.
Well, I got it. I've reached the age where 4 words is like "get off my lawn." that pretty much defines us. Get off my lawn.
You have like a very southern. You know how like you just said your dad was the kind of guy like with these one-liners. You're like the same way, man. You remind me of like a southern guy with these these like philosophical witty one-liners, man. You got it from your dad.
There was something to be said. Will Rogers and Mark Twain and those guys, they could turn a phrase as good as anybody. You know what I mean? Hey, I was hanging out. We did a benefit just 2 weeks ago in Memphis, and it was a benefit. I think the benefit was for St. Jude's, but they call it was a jam for Jimmy, which was a kind of a memorial on Jimmy Jameson, who was one of the great singers ever. You know, guy's a beautiful singer. And John Cafferty was there. You know who he is?
Beaver Brown Band.
Yeah, and Cafferty was there, and I'd worked some dates with Cafferty, and I just happened to see him at one point. I said, "Man, John, I've never seen you do a bad show, man. You always bring it, man. It's just, you know, let it fly." It's just, you know, he just said, "I realized a long time ago, it's way easier to be good," and I just caught it. It's easier to be good.
That's great, man.
Man, that's just as brilliant as it can get. It's just great. It's sort of back porch brilliance that John has, and he's a sweet guy. He's a really good guy. Works his brains out. His sax player, he calls him Tunes, is 78 years old and still sounds like he's unbelievably great tone. And they just kind of work together, sort of like Springsteen and Clarence. It was, you know, they were joined at the hip at some level.
Man, I saw this past weekend the Righteous Brothers. Bill Medley, 78.
Bill's a great singer. And a great guy.
Great entertainer. Man, he was so sweet. Just funny as hell, but just such a great way with the audience.
Yeah.
Just a very...
We backed up him and Bobby when I was in high school, before the Sons even started. We had a group called the Opposite Six, and we were the kind of the go-to band for backing people up, and we backed up the Righteous Brothers. When I was, I don't know, 16, 17 years old.
That's amazing, man.
And they were great then, and they're still great. And I saw him in Vegas, and I just run into Bill every once in a while. He's just a sweetie pie. And what a
really
great,
nice guy.
Yeah,
really nice
really
guy,
great,
man.
A great singer. You know, he's just one, and he's got definitely, you know, hear two notes and you know who it is.
Oh God, yeah, it's just sounded great. Just I was just so impressed with his.
How's the other guy? I know he had to replace Bobby.
Man, he was really good. His name was Bucky Heard, I think, Heard. He was great. I mean, he didn't try to do a Bobby. You know, he's got a great voice. Very nice guy.
I would imagine when that came down, Bill said, "Be yourself." Don't.
Very charismatic. Just. Great voice. I mean, they did a great job. In fact, Bill left the stage for one song, and Bucky did it. Really, it was a night. And I knew the guitar player, so we got to hang out backstage and meet all these guys. Yeah. Really nice, really cool guys, man. It was a great show, man. And he'll be 79 in a couple of months.
He's just one of those guys. You know, Bill's one of those guys. It's just, you know, he's always in there. You know what I mean? My lawyer one time gave me a record of Michel Colombier, and the two singers on the record was Bill Medley and Paul Williams, believe it or not.
Wow.
At different points. And a lot of it was instrumental, and it was really good music. And Bill was on it. When I saw him in Vegas, it must have been 20 years ago, I said, "Dude, I got the Michel Colombier record." He says, "Oh, you're the one." He said, I don't know, man. I kind of knew it wasn't going to fly, wasn't going to sell through the roof, but the music was so good that I just had to go do it, you know.
But that's his sense of humor.
He's kind of driven by music, you know. And I worked with, I did a background vocal with Tom Jones on a record quite a few years ago. And then I happened to be jamming with Jerry Lopez and some of the guys in Santa Fe at one of the lounges in Las Vegas. And Tom was in the back row, but I hadn't seen him in probably 10 or 15 years. And as I was walking out, Tom said, "What, you going to make believe you don't know me? Come
That's
here,
so
sit
funny.
down." He remembered me from doing these dates, you know, doing background dates for him, you know, with an album that he made with Michael Stewart, which I don't think did very well, but he's just another guy that's a giant star.
Yeah.
But music really still is blowing his skirts up. You know, you see those people. There's a reason they're still there, and Bill's one of those guys, same kind of guy. You know, he keeps his ears open and sees what's going on out there.
I interviewed a couple of different people that have played with Tom, a guitar player and a bassist, and they both said he's got the work ethic of like a plow mule. They said he's tired, you know, regardless of how old he is, he's the first guy up, first guy in, last guy out, that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Kind of the way Wade Boggs was, man. You know,
Wade Boggs, I heard that name.
He's a giant star, but he's the first guy out to the thing. He's the first guy running laps.
Yeah.
He's the first guy in practice, you know, and I was hearing this from a guy had just been kicked up from the minors, right? And he said, man, watching, some of these guys, they don't really have to go do that. They can just walk out and start playing. And Wade was one of those guys that just always was there, first guy at practice. And Tom Jones is that way. He's got that Welsh, coal miner kind of stuff going through his veins, and he just, hey, he probably is really grateful for all the good things that have happened to him.
But I think I always find how you do one thing is how you do everything. The guys that are doing you're either like that or not. You're not just like that with work, but okay, well, fuck it, everything else. You just approach everything like, man, let me just give it 110%, get it done, move on to the next thing.
Right. It's like what John said, man. It's easier to be good.
Easier to be good. I love that, man. I'm gonna write.
It's
that
like
down.
There's two kinds of kids. One will hold his homework until Sunday night.
Right.
And have a ball on the weekend with that homework still hanging over his head. And then there's that kid that gets home on Friday afternoon, gets his homework done so the weekend is his.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm kind of more that guy.
Yeah, I am too, to be honest with you.
Get it. If there's something for me to do, the quicker I do it. If I get my car registration and tags in the mail, usually it's on the license plate within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't want to take a chance of losing it or anything, getting caught in. My house has a lot of paper traps, a couple of newspapers, a flyer, a check for $100,000, and their newspapers. Like, how did that get in that pile?
Yeah, you don't want that.
So I always try to be, if it's important, deal with it immediately.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Elton John, how'd you get connected with him? And
he's just a really good guy, very good guy. I mean, he said, we need a girl singer. I said, can I bring Tamara? He said, sure. This is for the second album that I did with him. I think the first one was 21 at 33. He did 2 records on Geffen Records, and then he went back to Rocket and MCA. I happened to be on both of them. It's just the way the timing worked out. And, we walked into the session. He just went and got a chair for Tamara right away. It's just kind of a gentleman at heart.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. We were in there. It was me and Tamara and Stephanie Spruill were singing backgrounds on it, and we knocked it off, made it really great. And then Elton says, "Hey, Stephanie, you ready to bang one off?" I figured she was going to go in and do a vocal rave or something. She gets a tambourine, goes in there, and absolutely tears it up.
Wow!
Putting tambourine, and Elton was aware of how good she was, and got the mics set up so that she could kind of do the moves. And so she was not so much a percussionist as she was a church tambourine player. She kind of grew up in the church, And I remember playing I think it was a birthday gig with David Garfield at Lava Lee, a little club. And I had my portable, I think it was a Korg CX3. I was playing along with him. And Stephanie was right there next to me, and there was a tambourine. And at some point, I just took the tambourine and handed it to Stephanie, And Garfield was looking at me like, you don't just hand that to somebody in the audience. I said, you just wait. She started playing, and Chris Trujillo was playing congas and stuff like that. He was just going, "Oh my God, this girl can play!"
That's great, man.
And plus, she's a world class singer. It was always really fun. So I met her on Elton's gig, and I think the first one we did was it was me and Max Carl were singing backgrounds with Nigel and Dee Murray when Dee was still alive, and he was still playing with Elton. So that was the first record I did with him. We did the backgrounds for Little Genie, and a handful of other songs on the record. And
how'd you get connected with him?
Huh?
How'd you get connected with him?
This is really funny. I was about to go to Northern California to produce a demo for a friend of mine. He had some time. And I was living by myself in a little small studio apartment, and I had a bunch of dishes to do. So I had a Bordeaux glass, the big bubble wine glasses, and I was trying to hold on to it tight enough so the soap didn't make me drop it and break it. It snapped in my hand and cut me right here.
Holy smokes.
And I went, well, I don't feel anything. Nothing's going on. And I look at it, and I'm looking at the bone.
Oh,
it cut
my
right
God.
through the tendon into the bone. I'm sitting there all of a sudden I'm starting to feel faint. So I got to go sit down. I've got a dish towel on going, what the fuck? It wasn't bleeding that much. It didn't hurt that much, but I knew some problems have begun. What the hell happened? Phone rings. It's Elton John. He had been recording in he said we were in the south of France recording, and Steve Lukather played me your solo album, which was the single album, the first one I did with David. And I got to get you to do some vocals on my record. I said, Elton, I just fucked myself over pretty bad. He says, can I call you back? He said, yeah, get your ass to the hospital now. I said, yeah, I'm just looking at guitar and keyboard going down the tubes. He said, no, just go fix it. Yeah, deal with it now. So I went over to the hospital, and they just sewed it up, and so much was that. And I had to call the guy that I was going to go work for that night. I had to call him and say, dude, I'll fly in tomorrow.
Right.
So I call Elton back, and I say, dude, I just got it fixed. I was looking at the bone. He said, man, that had to be something else. I said, your call, it was aptly timed. It was just the weirdest moment that you could call. He said, as long as you got it covered. He says, can you do backgrounds for me tomorrow? I said, I told my friend, and I promised him that I'd go up and produce his demos tomorrow, so I'm not going to come back till Tuesday night. And he said, you mean you would produce a demo for your friend rather than sing on an Elton John record? I said, I made a promise.
Yeah, man.
And he said, that's fucking great. Be here Wednesday.
That's good, man.
He said, that's really cool. He said, a lot of people would just drop everything and tell everybody to fuck off. I'm going to work on an Elton record. And I just said, man, I promised this guy, he'd have to change, studio times, and he was getting free studio time anyway. So it was bump time no matter how you looked at it. And Elton was very, very cool about it. I mean, it turned out to be a sweetie pie. I liked it.
Plus, he's thinking, what are you going to do when you're working with his gig? And he's not going to have to worry about if someone else calls you out to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He you want the same. That goes to what I said. How you do one thing is how you do everything. It's not like you're just going to be loyal to this guy.
Yeah.
You're a loyal person. Period.
Yeah,
you honor your commitments.
After we did the work and everything, he calls me up. He says, I need to get the correct spelling for Max. Because at the time, Max was using his original name as opposed to Max Carl. Max sings with Grand Funk Railroad. He has been for years, right? And he's a sweet singer. And he's the guy that sang the lead on that big 38 special record, Second Chance.
Okay. Yep.
That's Max. He's good, really good singer. Beautiful, beautiful singer, beautiful musician, beautiful writer. Just one of those guys, he's a little tall for my money, but other than that, it is, hey, slam dunk, what's going on? Anyway, so Elton wanted to make sure he had the correct spelling on it for the credits on the record.
That's really cool.
And the correct spelling of my name. I said, Elton, don't you have somebody that could do this for you? He said, yeah, but they don't give a shit like I do. Wow. He said, look at it this way. It's a great thing for your resume to have sung on an Elton John record.
Yeah.
It's not a great thing to have had your name misspelled on it. He said, so I want to make sure, and it's happened before when I've let other people do it. And he says, this is one thing that I always try to keep on top of myself so that I don't get nicknames from people that I misspelled their name.
That's really cool, man.
So he takes care of that himself, and I thought, man, that's a cool thing. That's a real favor that he's doing.
Yeah.
Because hey, he's got his vocals. The checks have been paid. It's all happened.
So he's wanting to make sure that if something good can come out of this for you, it will.
Yeah. And he was just
really honorable, man.
I thought, man, that's a really cool touch. That to me is a real artist.
Yeah. That's really cool.
By the way, I hear the new movie's insane. The movie about
the Elton John movie? Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. It's the guy that played in Kingsman.
Did you
ever see the Kingsman movies?
No, I have not.
But a young English actor is just really, really good. Kind of short guy, and he played in these two Kingsman movies that ran away. They were giant. Actually, Elton was in the second one. He was an actor in the second one.
I'm gonna have to because
he played Elton John. It was really funny.
He played Elton John.
He was insanely funny. It was a great little moment. Check out the Kingsman movies. They're probably in rotation. The second one's probably in rotation as we speak. But and this kid Taron, I think his name is Taron Egerton or something, plays Elton, and I'm told he's great. That it really came off well.
I will check that out this coming weekend.
And it's like the Queen movie. Suddenly, the Queen movie did so well that people are going, well, we got to do more of these. You know?
More British artists.
Yeah, maybe so. You know.
Hey, what would you say if you could knee-jerk reaction? Top 3 musical experiences you've had for whatever reason. You know, the work, the personalities, whatever.
Well, any session with Foster, you know, when I first started to work with Foster, was pretty insane. It was really, really cool. It just opened my mind to a whole lot more music than I was there. And I was kind of known as a pretty good arranger and singer and songwriter and stuff like that. But it really kind of, I grew quite a bit in a very short period of time working with David. Another thing is, when I was younger, the Sons were playing a gig in Los Angeles, and we were the third liner. And it was Yardbirds, BB King, and the Sons.
Oh my God!
And they had two sets of stages, and you had the PA speakers left and right of the left stage, and then the right speaker would be the left speaker, and there was another one over on the right. So when one band was done, the other one was all set up to play on the other stage. So you didn't have the Chinese fire drill that you usually have between bands. Right?
Yeah.
So each band got to play 2 sets. So we played it. We opened the show. BB was next. Yardbirds were next. Then we played again. Then BB played again. Then the Yardbirds played again. It was a cool show. It was the Shrine Auditorium. Well, our Hammond organ blew a fuse on the last note of our first set. And we had said, BB's totally welcome to use our organ.
Oh, wow.
And because at the time he had Duke Jethro playing pedals. All he had was 2 horns, drummer, himself, and Duke on organ and pedals, right? Playing bass pedal. Happened? Well, I mean, at some point in the game, BB was ready to go on. We sent a guy out to get a fuse, which he got one, but it was after he didn't get it till probably 3/4 of the way through BB's set, looking for a Radio Shack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Luckily, there were Radio Shacks around, but it didn't happen right away. So BB needed to play his first set with a bass player. So the promoter of the show, remember his name, Mark Chase, comes up and says, "Hey, BB needs a bass player. When do you guys somebody want to cover this?" So my bass player was named Al Strong at the time. He went over to grab, he had a fretless, Ampeg fretless. He went over to grab his bass, and I went over to him and said, "Al, have you ever heard of BB King?" He said, "No." I said, "Can you name me one BB King song?" He said, "No." I said, "Give me that." So I went down and played a set with BB, and the drummer was Sonny Freeman, and wow. That was my shuffle lesson for my life. I mean, really learned this is where a shuffle sits, And I mean, I was probably 21,
good experience, 20. Man.
Yeah, and it was and BB was the kindest, sweetest man.
Everybody
hung out with him for a while. Just a wonderful guy. I mean, there's a reason why he was, considered like an ambassador for the blues. What a great singer. Everybody talks about his guitar playing. Insanely great guitar player. But as a singer, I always thought he was really cool. His phrasing was just beautiful. It was something to really listen closely to. He got away with a lot of cool stuff. I loved him, man. He was a really good guy. I mean, we didn't become friends or hang out or anything, but for just that one moment, it was a big moment for me. I mean, I was just a kid.
That's magic, man.
19, 20 years old, something like that. So playing a set with BB, and especially with Sonny, with his drummer, I had to, and luckily, I mean, when I was in high school, I took string bass in orchestra for a little while. So I knew the positions, knew pretty much all the positions. And luckily the Ampeg fretless had dots on it. So I didn't necessarily need frets.
Yeah.
And I didn't play anything that I could, and I didn't try to pull off anything other than just keep it simple.
Yeah, just keep that groove going.
And BB just said, "Man, you're a great bass player." I said, "Thank you. I'm not really a bass player. As you know, I'm an organ player." And then he was there listening to our whole set. When we played the second set, he said, "Unbelievably great music." I said, "Man, you guys, there's a reason you guys are good,
That's so nice, man.
He's a real sweet man. I loved him,
So,
and that was just a really giant moment in my life. And then another one was right after I left Chicago. I got an orchestra conductor got in touch with the agent that I had at the time. She called me and said, "Well, this guy wants to have you come over and do a full TV show with a 45-piece orchestra.
Wow.
And he'll get the arrangers and do the arrangements and stuff. I said, let me call him. So I called him. Lars Gudim was his name. Gudim.
Your memory is good, man. Your recall's really.
No,
for,
this is,
for all the years ago,
moment.
you go back.
It was. I mean, he kind of knew I was kind of fired, and he kind of knew I was in the place where I kind of needed something, and he was more aware of my music than he was of Chicago's.
That's great.
So we went ahead and did a lot of my stuff off the first solo album, and then we did a version of "Light Up the Candles," which is a really cool song that I put on the Through It All album, and with a 45-piece orchestra with a harp and pretty much young. It was a Cork radio orchestra, and that was a really major moment in my life, playing with that, doing that. But they got us background vocals. So Tam and these two guys put the backgrounds together, and it was really cool. It just ended up being really, really great. George Valenius was playing guitar. Pretty sweet group of people, and all the players were insane. The drummer was a monster. So I mean, it ended up being a really, really cool thing, and we did it. It took them a while to get it on television, but it's there. It's the Cork, which is KORK, which is the call letters for the TV station in Oslo, Norway.
And it's sort of like it was at a time you needed it. You said so.
I kind of needed it. It's sort of. I was kind of like, well, I mean, I'd spent the last 10 years, going home from tours, saying to Tamara, "Am I that bad a singer? Am I?" And she's going, "Oh, this is not going in the right direction. This is not working at all." Because I would sing something that I thought was just insanely great. And, Tris would look over and go, "Oh, yeah." Because I've known Tris since long before I was in Chicago. Tris is going, "Yeah, Bill, hit it." And I look around to the original members, and they're giving me the stink eye, you're not doing that again. Oh, you're going to do that shit again, So I was kind of really in the wrong place. So, I mean, I felt really pretty bad about my own musicianship, my own performance ability and all that. I mean, I was just like, oh, man, this is all getting nutty.
Which sucks when you have the kind of work ethic you have when you're bringing it, and it's so important to you to,
right.
Have that. I'm the first guy, their mindset, and I'm going to just kill it. That's really kind of demoralizing.
Yeah.
In any situation.
Well, it just, I wasn't one of the originals. I didn't pay a lot of I didn't do any interviews or anything like that. I didn't do a lot of, well, these guys are all prodigies and these guys are this, and talk about Chicago. I talk about music. Sure. And music in general. And it's not just Chicago's music. It's everybody's music, What, I mean, we're going to talk, you're in Chicago, so you can't mention that you like Stevie Wonder. Wait a minute. Hold it. Everybody out of the pool, come on. Yeah. This is one of the greats of our time, one of the all-time, he's as good as anybody has ever walked up to a microphone, Yeah. I mean,
as a singer, a player, and a songwriter. Absolutely.
Oh man, his piano playing from when he started at Music of My Mind to where he is now. I mean, at this point in the game, he sounds like Bill Evans or something. He's amazing. And he's one of those guys that just keeps growing as a musician, just his own personal thing. It's just, I want to shoot him. He's that good. Arrest that man. Forget about it,
Hey, your son Will finished third on The Voice, and I was curious, what was that experience like for you as a parent? That must have been really cool.
Well, to start with, that experience was where they put us for most of the show was right near the air conditioning for the whole soundstage. So my ass will probably unthaw sometime in the late, about 2030.
Yeah.
It was just freezing over there. I mean, I started bringing overcoats and blankets and stuff. It was because that's where we were when your son or your brother or whoever's in your family is on, they bring you over to this other spot where they got a camera.
Right. Oh, right.
And they'll flop over to you for a minute while he's singing, and then but as soon as he's done, they put you back over in the Arctic. So it's like, for me, every Monday was a day on the tundra, I mean, it was just out of whack. It was cold. But I mean, Will, they really had him slated to get blown out of there, and he always, every week, he would come through like a dog. I mean, when he did that, he did the Etta James At Last.
Oh, great song.
Tore the place apart. I had a guy next to me hitting me with his elbow going, who the fuck is this guy? Where'd this guy come from? I said, I don't know, but quit hitting me. And, CeeLo was just standing up and screaming. I mean, and Will called me the week before, during the week of that week. And he said, well, my coach, who was a guy from Maroon 5, I forget what his name is.
Adam
Levine, right?
Yeah.
He said, well, listen, man, do this song, but do it differently. Keep it low and don't do any licks. And Will said, how the fuck am I going to do that? I said, well, just be a bad motherfucker and fuck this guy. You can sing circles around this guy, and you know it, and I know it. So let it fly, man. Let it completely fly. And he did. He just kaboom, just went off, just started knocking off these licks, went into screech range, just tore the place apart. And that kind of, had enough momentum. And then he did some other tunes, I guess, I can't even remember what these songs are. They should kind of give you songs. And then at the end, Adam Levine had 2 people in the finals, and he had his money on Tassan, who's a great singer.
Yeah.
And he had his money on Tassan, and the song that he gave Will to finish out with was a ballad, kind of not a very good ballad. What's his name? Who's that singer and guitar player from Canada who had so many hits? And, I don't know. I forget his name.
Harry Chapin? No, he was.
No. Young guy. I can't remember his name, but he did the music for the Robin Hood movie. Anyway, I'm sorry. I forget names. Crazy, it just goes away.
No, you don't, man. You're like I just said. Your memory is like on razor sharp. You can't remember everything, but your memory is.
Yeah,
really
well,
good.
I'm also a founding member of CRS. Can't remember
shit. Yeah.
it'll come to me as we go along.
Hey, Bill, what were some of the low points or dark periods you've had to deal with, and how'd you get through them?
Well, probably the last anywhere from 5 to 10 years of Chicago for me was pretty dark. It was like I couldn't walk away from the money. It was just, and then I was on my own case for being so, putting up with the kind of shit that was going on there for money.
Yeah, but it's hard not to do that.
It's hard. I mean, I'm looking around at people and they're going, dude, you got a really great gig, and nobody's working. The music business was in the process of doing that.
Right.
Seen any retail stores lately? I mean,
right.
The whole thing is, the whole thing just kind of going down the tubes. I can't give you any reasons why, but it was happening and it was all starting to go. And having a regular straight gig like that. I mean, they don't pay their crew that much, but they work so much that people are lining up to get on the crew with that band, because they never take a break. And I was getting older, and I just it was just getting to where it was, bang them out. It was like I felt like I was being a Xerox machine, or being asked to be a Xerox machine. So, and in that sense, I mean, everybody felt that way. I mean, it's when you're on the road, you're on the road. It's a nice bed. It's a nice hotel. These buses are lovely. It's not home.
Sure.
No matter what it is, it's not home. Even if home is sleeping in a manger, it's still home.
Yeah.
So, in some way, I never want to work that much out there. I don't mind working a little bit, and a little bit of road's great. And I kind of learned how to do the road, how to pack correctly, how to try to, build your day around the gig. How to keep yourself relatively fit while you're out there. All that situation. I got sober while I was in that band.
Oh, you did? How long you been sober now?
Yeah. Well, that was, I think, 3 or 4 years into the band. I just realized, man, they're gonna bail out on my ass at some point in the game. I was doing blow and I was doing booze all through the 17 tour. By the time I was done, I was weary, just weary, and my brother-in-law had gone through Hazelden.
Okay.
So I checked in. He got me checked into Hazelden. So when that 17 tour was over, Peter just left the band, and I just went, I'm going into treatment. I'm just out of control here. I can't stay on top of it.
Was that your first time going?
And that was 1985, and I haven't. And it's what now? It's 2019, so it's 34 years.
Yeah, a long time. Congratulations!
Like
Holy shit!
Yeah, I mean, it's just.
And it took you went first time. Was that the first time you were in rehab?
Pardon me? That was the only rehab I've ever done.
You're kidding, man. That's pretty. Yeah. That's pretty.
Well,
like,
they say
statistics.
there's a lot of slipping going on. And just a few years ago, I had cancer, so I was doing a lot of weed just to keep from being nauseated.
I talk to guys, and it's like, and I don't need to tell you this, man. Everybody's sobriety is like your fucking sobriety, right? Because some people will be like, I've talked to some guys that smoke weed and they're sober, but something like a medical situation happened or whatever, and then they are torn because you got some of the guys in AA or NA like, no, you can't do that. But I don't know.
Yeah,
man.
marijuana maintenance, they call it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a guy who's gotten sober, but it appears to me that it's a personal, like your sobriety is your fucking sobriety. And I think what the key thing is it's addict behavior. That's the fucking problem. Not.
Well, I'll tell you, I did chemo for, I don't know, 3 months or something like that. And it was really a good thing for me to be doing, ingestible and smokable. And it was a good thing to be doing because I just, other than sitting around going, oh, I'm sick, which would make me more sick.
Yeah. How are you feeling now?
I'm better now. I mean, the chemo kind of left it hits you pretty hard. So I've got heart issues. I've got a lot of issues that I'm dealing with them all. And it's all cool. And matter of fact, this last weekend we did 3 Sons gigs in one weekend. That's rare.
Dude, you're like a $6 million man. You're like a warrior.
Ever ready bunny. Yeah, my doctor told me that. Said if I could make that synthesizer sound, I'd do it.
No, you've been through a lot of shit, man. That's pretty cool. I think it's.
Yeah, I mean, in 2014, I went in to do something to try to fix my eyes. Something was going wrong with my eyes. And had to go to an internist. He said, so how's your heart? I said, my heart's been great. He says, no, it ain't. Something's wrong here. And, within a week of that, I ended up getting a pacemaker put in. So I'm packing a metronome.
So you had a pacemaker put in 14, and then you had cancer in 16.
Yeah, in 16. And then, the day I was diagnosed with Gleason 7, which is a pretty high cancer, aggressive count. On a Monday, and my older son Brad died on a Tuesday from esophageal cancer. So I don't like the C word too terribly much. You know what I mean?
Wow, man.
Shit.
One of the things that I get out of this is I hear everybody else's stuff, and it makes me feel like any stuff I've had is like pretty fucking insignificant. When you hear it's a lot better the devil known sort of than the devil unknown, like whatever stuff I've had, like, okay, it's I've dealt with it or I'm dealing with it, and it's manageable. But when I hear stuff like this, man, I'm like, I give you so much credit for like
2016 was, and then, I had, on the heels of that, 2 days after that, I had to fly to Johannesburg to do 2 nights at the jazz festival. I told somebody I'd do it, and I had to go do it. So I was with Brenda Russell and Denise Williams, and they're old friends and old pals. So they were like, "Here's the shoulder. You need to cry on something. Go for it." Because it was, right.
Oh my God, that's
3 days after Brad passed away.
Devastating, man. I'm so sorry.
And then they took out that we went into surgery. I talked with the surgeon and different people and said, well, this doesn't look like one that you want to go with radiation first. You want to go with surgery first. And then if you need radiation, you're okay. If you go with radiation first, you can't take that thing out of there. It'll fall apart.
What kind of, if you're comfortable, what kind of cancer was it that you had?
It was prostate cancer.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So I went in and we had the thing taken out. And then they what they do is they take out a bunch of lymph nodes, They took out 24 lymph nodes, and 3 of them still had
Holy
cancer.
shit.
So he said, you've still got, there's still something going on we need to deal with. So remember that conversation we had about taking the prostate out first, and then if you need radiation, you're okay to use it. So it came true. Now you got to go in and then they checked out, when they took out the prostate, they did they checked out the radon, and it was Gleason 9. It only goes to 10. So they said, you got a very aggressive form going on here.
What's going on now?
Well, I mean, I did 39 radiation treatments. And then when I was kind of on the heels of that, I went and did, 3 months of every 1 hour every 3 weeks for 18 weeks of chemo.
Holy shit.
And that was a mess. I lost my hair, did the whole 9 yards. I still played some gigs, but I called Danny, I called different people. I said, guys, this chemo's kicking my ass. I mean, it's nasty as sin. So I just don't see myself traipsing through airports at this point of the game. Just not happening. So right around then I went, well, I'm here. I'm kind of not doing anything. And I was in front of my, Pro Tools rig working on the Bleeding Secrets album. So I kept the music going. I just didn't want to travel. It was, I always look at traveling as that the gig itself is the eye of the hurricane.
Yeah.
It's calm.
Yeah.
There's sun shining. Everything's cool. The rest of it is the rest of the hurricane.
Yeah.
Traveling and the TSA and the bags and the this and the that and all the other crap that goes along with it. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. It's just traveling is just more humiliating than it used to be,
How did you discover that you had the prostate cancer, if you don't mind me asking?
It's really weird because I had a colonoscopy. A friend of mine had colon cancer, and I got the number of his guy. I called his guy, and he said, well, you're about 2 years overdue for your colonoscopy. Let's go do that. When he did the colonoscopy, at the end of it, he says, okay, we got a few polyps. We've taken them out. They're all benign. You've got no problems with that. I'll see you in 3 years for your next one. And then he said, you need to see a urologist because I just took a look here and something's wrong. You got to deal with this. Well, it turns out the prostate was the size of a Volkswagen bus. It was just so big. It just got out of control. It's just another thing my dad handed me.
Oh, okay. So you
bad electronics in my heart and very large. I mean, I've had enlarged prostate since I was in my 20s.
Wow.
Dude,
you're like, I really have so much empathy for what you've been through, but at the same time, man, you're the guy I want to be in the foxhole with, to be honest with you, because I'm going to be getting out. Serious, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah.
You're like a warrior, man.
Well, you've got no choice. It's which side of the grass you want to exist on, underneath or over. And that's what I'm saying, over. And music is, there's gigs out there and I play them. I mean, I do a handful of things with the Sons.
Yeah.
Whenever we can. Wonderground we play whenever we can. But not a lot. I'm really more interested in getting in front of the Pro Tools rig with a Strat and an amplifier and a microphone, or an organ or whatever I'm working on, and doing new music. That to me is really blowing my skirts up more than anything. You know what I mean? The live thing is good, but it's just this last weekend I loved playing with the Sons. The gigs were great. The Eye of the Hurricane again. The gigs were great. Getting up there, the rehearsing, the schlepping gear, the getting the right guitar for this and that and the other thing, all of that's kind of a little bit ugly. That's the thing with Chicago that was great is they had guys to do all that.
Oh yeah.
I think the last 5 years with Chicago, I played a Yamaha motif. I didn't even know how to turn the thing on. I had such a great keyboard tech that all I had to do was get out there and play. We didn't bother sound checking because we had
well, see, that's why
you
got to forgive yourself, man.
On the side of the stage. Everybody had what they had. The last year I used in-ear monitors. I don't really like them very much.
Right. But that's what I was just saying, Bill. You got to forgive yourself for sticking around so long, man, because you had on the surface, anybody would look at what you got and say, hey, man, what are you, crazy? And it's real hard. Any relationship, you don't go to the doctor the first day you got a toothache.
Yeah.
Right? You know, you don't break up with a spouse or a girlfriend the first day you know that you got to end the relationship. And it's the same thing with that situation. And, you know, when you start thinking about, too, you got a wife, you got family, you got responsibility. Yeah. It's a hard thing to walk away from, man.
Mortgages, etc. The whole 9 yards.
It's really hard to walk away from.
But I'll tell you, in terms of dealing with sickness and, you know, cancer and all that kind of stuff, I think Tamara probably more than the doctors and the hospitals. I think Tamara kept me alive.
How long you guys been together?
We've been married for 37 years.
Oh my God, that's so cool, man! Congratulations.
Oh, she's great, man. That girl can sing.
Woo! That's great.
She's a major singer. That song you were saying, Chagall. That's all her.
That's a beautiful song, man.
Yeah.
Wow, man. I got goosebumps. Let me ask you a couple of more questions and I'll wrap it up. I can't thank you. Man, if you were around, I'd give you a hug, man. I really, no, your story was really cool and I really appreciate everything you've been through.
There's a lot of stuff that, you know, I always look at it as like Stevie Ray Vaughan's strings. You know what I mean? He's got bridge cables on that thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? I went to Tamara and I were singing backgrounds for a Don Johnson record years ago, right?
Right.
And Don at the time was clean and sober and very cool. It was a good hang, and we had a lot of fun. Chad Sanford was producing it and everything. But I went in there, and I walk in, and there's Stevie Ray Vaughan hanging out, and I see the SRV guitar out in the studio. So Chaz introduces me to Stevie, and he was a sweet guy. You know, it looked like he was wearing one from the night before. You know what I mean? There was a little partying going on of some kind. And I said, "Hey, man, can I play your guitar?" He said, "Absolutely, go for it." And I couldn't. And there was a wound G on it. I couldn't bend his G string at all. I couldn't get a half note out of it. You know, I was just going, "Oh my God, these strings are so big." It's one of the reasons why he sounds so good.
He played 13s, from what I understand.
Yeah, they were 13s. You know, my B string is a 13. I mean, give me a break. and then he just, you know, he'll bend it a major third. And I was just going, man, this guy's got what a meat this guy is.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
And later on, long after he had passed away, I happened to be in Nashville. It was the night that Toto was inducted into their Music Hall of Fame down there. Mm-hmm. And we were walking over to this place where they're having an after party, and I happened to be walking there with the drummer from Double Trouble.
Oh,
and I just mentioned, I said, "Well, I met Stevie the one time I tried to play his guitar." I said, "Man, he must have been strong." He said, "Man, his arms were like that. He was just passionate. He knew if he didn't have fat strings on it, he'd rip them right off the guitar."
Was that Chris Layton? Is that his name?
Yeah, I think so.
Chris Layton.
I can't even remember. Real sweet guy, nice dude, great drummer.
Yeah,
there's a shuffle right there. That guy could play one in. Yeah. And I was just like, "Oh man," he said, "Man, he's not really strong, but it doesn't not like he lifted weights or anything like that. He was just the tone of his guitar was just, you know, nobody had that tone, and it was Stevie that did it. I mean, I swear to God, there was a wound G on that thing, and when he bent the strings, it sounded like he had 8s on it, you know." I go, wow, this guy's pretty strong. Terry Haggerty from the original Sons uses 12s.
Which is,
you know, and I didn't even know that. I used 10s, and for a long time I was using 9s, but I can't keep them in tune for shit, you know. So I use 10s on my Strat, and I'm thinking about going to 11s because rhythm wise, the bigger the string, the better the rhythm guitar. You know what I mean? Well, and I took acoustic guitar, took it down to 11s. Because 12s were just hurting.
Yeah, that's tough on an acoustic. Is totally different, man. It's
a different ball game. But you know, when you're producing records, it's all got to be there. I got a 12-string, 6-string. You know, sometimes the 12 strings for a B section, just a big ring on a 12 is a perfect thing to be there. So I've kind of over the years I've kind of looked at different tones of guitar. There's guys that are so good at getting just moving, just changing the tone a little bit so that it doesn't get in the way of the last guitar that you put on. I mean, the name that comes to mind is Tim Pierce.
Yeah.
I mean, Tim just he's got his rig so under his hands. Same thing with Mike Landau.
Yeah.
I remember watching him with his Bradshaw system, and he could just change tones at a the drop of a hat. And there's a million different things out there. There's the whole Kemper systems and Line 6 systems, and all these systems are really, really great. I just got myself I was a boogie guy for years. I had a Mark V. It's a great amplifier, beautiful. I mean, covers just about everything.
And what'd you get?
But then I saw Carmen show up with a red plate.
Out of Arizona.
Yeah, out of Arizona. Yeah. I saw he was playing the red plate. I saw him solo with it. I saw the grin on his face. I went, okay. And then I went to a rehearsal with Danny, and in walks Mark Bonilla with a red plate.
That's funny. I know who. Yeah,
I got the phone number, and I got a red plate sitting right over there.
That's cool, man. I know Mark.
It's a cool. Yeah, Mark's he's a bear, man. That guy's. It kind of pisses me off because usually I'm a good finger watcher. I can be playing organ and look over and see what the guitar player's doing.
Right.
Not when you're left-handed.
Oh, that's right. Hey, who are some of the guitar players you've played with over the years that you really liked?
Well, Terry Haggerty's a bitch. Carmen Grillo is insane how good he is. He's such a great rhythm player. He did 10 years with Tower of Power. He was with the rhythm player with Tower. Now he actually kind of makes a living more as an engineer. He's got a studio in his house, and he's never not working. He's always working.
Hey man,
which is it's hard to say that of most studios in L.A.
Yeah,
it just keeps it going. All the Greg Adams East Bay Soul stuff is cut there. They cut all the horns for summer saxes that was out a couple of years ago, which was Mindy and Dave Koz and handful of really great sax players. That was all cut over at Carmen's house. So he's a great engineer. Really kind of knows his way around. I mean, I'm in a band with two really cool engineers because Alan Hurts plays with the Sons also. So I got guys that actually can look at the keyboard and tell you what frequency that is.
Yeah, those guys are scary, man.
Yeah, right. Tell me about it.
Hey, what was the happiest moment or happiest time in your life?
Well, when my son was born, when any of my children were born, it was always, there's a certain point where the music has nothing to do with anything.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's music, and we all love to be musical and everything, but there's certain things that happen in a family situation that are just gorgeous. When I said I do, I mean, it's kind of crazy because Tamara and I were married, and my dad was a justice of the peace at the time. He was a judge.
Yeah.
So he married us.
That's so freaking cool, I think.
Yeah, he married us, and he said, "You can kiss the bride." And I just about almost got to kissing her, and she pulled a young Frankenstein and went, "No tongues." He pulled a Madeline gun, and my dad was going, "What was that?" No tongues.
Oh my God. That's
so that
funny,
kind of tells you pretty much where that relationship is.
That's so funny.
She's one of the funniest human beings on the earth, So it keeps us laughing pretty much. So I mean, that kind of keeps us going. I mean, I'm very, very lucky because I get real nervous before gigs. Why I don't know. Usually, is my equipment gonna work and that kind of thing.
Well, I think
different
that's
than
common,
playing a Chicago gig. With Chicago gig, you just go up there and you play the gig.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be nervous about. It's all covered. You got guys doing it. I can't, at this point in my life, I can't really afford to have a roadie on retainer.
Very few people can.
Yeah, who can do that? So
very few people
I end up kind of schlepping my own stuff. But think about it. I got to bring in a montage, which is big and heavy. I got to, Yamaha. I got to bring in a portable organ because I play organ and piano, and get that into the PA, and all that's fine and dandy. And then I got to bring in my amp and my pedals.
Yeah.
And then a music stand and the book because I can't remember any words, because I told you I'm a founding member of CRS. Can't remember shit.
Yeah. What guitar are you playing today nowadays?
I'm playing Strat.
Yeah.
I was playing my next favorite guitar is an HP. It's a French guitar. Henry Polizzi it's his company. But what I found with the HP, I love playing it, but I found that I like the middle position, and in order to turn up or down, you have two volume controls. Now, when I'm singing, one volume control is a lot more helpful, just the way it's set up. The same thing with a 335 or with a Les Paul.
Yeah.
If you're in your middle position, to turn it down, you got to turn down two different volume controls. So I kind of like being able to just go to one knob and bring it down.
With the Strat.
If I'm singing, going to letter A of a song, I can cut it back, keep playing rhythm, and just cut it back without reaching for two. And it's just less time consuming. So I really like the Strat. I still got a Floyd on it, some Fender noiseless pickups.
Is it old Strat or new?
Oh, it's brand new.
Oh,
yeah, I just got it. I got it a little while ago.
That's
It's
cool,
a company,
man.
and actually Gary Falcone turned me onto this company in Wisconsin, and they did the work on it.
They put the Floyd on.
Yeah.
Very cool, man.
Yeah, put the Floyd on it, and I like a Floyd. It's just less to deal with when you're playing live. I mean, I don't play all night on guitar. Like I say, I'm either playing organ. I know with the Sons, last night or the night before last, once we finished a certain song, I put it on the stand, and I'm on organ for the rest of the set.
Let me ask you a question about the Sons. You guys had horns. Was that like? I'm not asking you this for gossip or like to stir up anything. Chicago had horns. Where did that come from? Who had that first?
Well, the first band in San Francisco area that had horns was a group called Generation.
Okay.
They were based out of Berkeley, and they had a full horn section, and their singer was Lydia Pence. Right, and Lydia ended up putting together Cold Blood, which had horns, but they were really the first guys in town to do it. There was another group, I think Loading Zone might have had horns. Then we had horns. We had a 3-piece section, but right before the first album, the trumpet player went kind of nuts, ended up in a hatch.
Wow.
So rather than try to break in a new trumpet player, we didn't have charts. We were head charting everything. Rather than on the first album, the Loosen Up Naturally album, rather than get another horn player, we just had Jeff, our vibe player and keyboard player. We had Jeff playing alto also. Okay. So he played alto, Tim Kaine played tenor, and I played baritone.
Wow.
Because I played
man. I couldn't pick you out
in high school.
I couldn't pick you out because there's some great full concerts of the Sons on YouTube, and I was like, "Who's Bill?" It was hard to. I didn't know because it was 60,
probably
close to 60 years ago.
Yeah, probably sitting behind a B3 for the most part. Yeah. I played enough guitar to where it was going on. It was kind of weird. There, at one point, I was just playing rhythm because Terry Haggerty was a piece of work. I mean, this guy was one of the first guys to really take jazz solo kind of things and crank it through hit the preamp really hard and play that jazz solo with hard guitar sounds. That's I think he was one of the first guys to do it. So he kind of was pretty serious innovator on that level, just in terms of playing lead, but he was also just a bitchin' rhythm guitar player. He's playing an L5 through a twin reverb.
That's so cool, man. A
beefed twin reverb with SROs in it. So it wasn't that Formica thing that you feel from most twin reverbs. The Electro Voice speakers, although they weighed a ton, the Electro Voice speakers there was a little give. You had a little give with them.
It seems like all those cabinets and amps back then were they all sounded great, man. You listen to
they were all pretty cool. I mean, when you think about a 59 Tweed Bassman, oh man. I mean, when we had the band before we had the Sons, we used to go to Rob Moitoza. The bass player was Rob Moitoza. He was a couple of years older than all of us. Great bass player, really a screaming bass player. But we'd rehearse at his house. Now, him and his mom and dad and his sisters hired out doing Hawaiian music for parties.
Oh.
So I mean, rare to go to your bass player's house and ask if you can borrow his mom's, 410 Tweed Bassman and her jazz master for rehearsal.
That's pretty freaking cool, though.
How fucking cool is that?
That is very fucking cool, man.
As long as you tune it up when you're done, because she doesn't like doing that.
That's so
it's
cool.
Pretty funny.
Hey, man, last question, and I cannot thank you enough. Man, you're you're a great guy, man. I really respect everything you've been through, man. And that you come through it and you're not a dick. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people get bitter about stuff. As far as I know, I get the best of everybody. It's rare that I get, but I mean, I spoke to Ed. I know you're a good guy. Yeah,
Eddie. For some reason, Ed and I just hit it off right away. I mean, whenever he does a solo, although the last I was playing with CTA for a good little while.
Right.
And for probably 6-7 years, and they started.
Just so the listeners know, what's the full name of Chicago?
It's California Transit Association.
Right, California Transit.
Let me get rid of this.
Yeah, man.
Gary, doing an interview. I'll call you right back. So we were playing. We ended up doing one of these cruises. And we were all knocked out. Procol Harum was on the cruise, and we just went to their show.
That's pretty cool, man.
God. Gary Brooker still sounds beautiful, just the most soulful voice ever, without being an R&B singer by any means, but just this sound that. I mean, I remember after the show was over, I looked at Mark Bonilla. Him and his wife were walking up the stairs, and they were both crying. They finished off with Whiter Shade of Pale.
Well, that song there's something that's like one in a million.
Just gorgeous. Yeah, but look at the lyrics. Go on Google those lyrics and just eyeball that.
Oh, I know. It's very deep. It's very moving, man.
Deep.
But that B3
Salty Dog is insane gorgeous,
The whole.
But so at any rate, we were doing that. But, it's these cruises, it's a floating Petri dish, So... And then we got off of that, and we flew to Vegas to do a gig, and it was in a flying Petri dish.
Right.
Had a guy next to me coughing the whole way. I got to Las Vegas. We stayed overnight. Next day, I went to sound check. Everything was fine. Went upstairs, took a shower. It took me 15 stops before I could get back to the thing because I could not breathe.
Because of all you picked something up.
What was happening is I had pneumonia.
Is your immune system fully restored?
It's down. When you do chemo, it doesn't get rid of it, but it takes it down a ways.
Yeah.
So I got sick. Simple as that. So from here on in, any airplane rides I do, I wear those little paper masks.
Yeah. Why the hell not?
Yeah. Well, both hospital. I was in 4 days in the hospital in Nevada and 4 days in the hospital here because I could not stop coughing.
And that's the worst when you're sick.
I thought I was gone. I literally thought I was gone. I said, this had nothing to do with cancer, and it had nothing to do with heart things. It was just I was sicker than a dog. It was just simple as that. So
and nothing worse being
at any
sick
rate,
when you're not home.
At that point of the game, I mean, the band went on the stage without me, and I went into an ambulance and went to the hospital. And I was just going, what's going on here? This is not happening. And then I realized I'd been kind of unhappy with where CTA was going because they were starting to add kind of obscure Chicago quote artsy craftsy unquote kind of things into the set, and it was becoming more and more of a tribute band. And I kind of, when I joined them, they were still doing a lot of material off of the albums that Danny had done with Mark, and Mark was kind of the co-producer of the record, and Mark Bonilla.
Yeah.
And Ed was a big part of all these records. So it was kind of cool to do their music, and of course some of the Chicago songs. And, we were doing Turn Your Love Around, my version of Turn Your Love Around. All of it was fine and dandy, but it seemed to be leaning further and further and further toward Chicago songs as opposed to CTA songs. And I was getting less and less enthralled with that. I didn't really want to do that. And there's good musicians in that band. Travis Davis on bass, woo, and a monster singer. And we got this singer that sings all the Cetera parts upstairs, Tony Grant. Man, forget about it. These guys are amazingly great. So it was a cool band. It was a very cool band, and added horn players. We'd add horn players to it. So all of it was fine and dandy, but I was, it was just getting old, and I figured they had to arrange around me because I'm sick. They can arrange around me because I'm gone. So I basically I kind of bailed out. I'm in too many bands. It's almost making me sick that I'm working as much as I'm working because CTA was starting, in terms of how much work they were getting, it was starting to pick up.
Well, plus if you're not happy, man, was it?
Yeah, and I
shame
really
on me. Was it you make a mistake? What that thing says? Shame on me, the first one, or
Yeah, right.
Right. Yeah.
Shame on you, the first one. Shame on me, the second one.
Yeah. Right.
But the move was I just went, I'll do a lot. And Danny, even on a phone call, said, "How you feeling?" I said, "I'm still coughing like crazy." He says, "Hey, I got a question. You're not really into this anymore, are you?" I said, "No, I really. Now that we're talking about it, I think it's a good time to bail." It's
good.
an opportune moment. I was so sick, and I finally got rid of the pneumonia and the flu. I mean, in Nevada I had pneumonia, in LA I had the flu. So it was like a 1-2 punch, just knocking me over, And it was funny in Nevada. There was one night I was coughing so bad I just couldn't breathe. And I was just surrounded by nurses, and this one lady that was the receptionist on that floor gets in there, and I was crying. It was just so bad. I was just at an attack. And I was crying. I said, "Man, is euthanasia legal in Nevada?" And the lady said, "You keep talking like that, I'll kill you."
That's so good.
And I just started laughing. I went, "That's fucking great." And she kind of winked at me, and the moment was over. But I don't know who she was, but she was great. "You keep talking like that, I'll kill you."
Man, sometimes you get a little angel like that, bring you out.
Yeah, she just That's somehow good. managed to pull it off and made it all really work. So I mean, my health is always an issue. There's always stuff going on and I just kind of don't know whether being in 4 or 5 bands is that smart at this stage of the game. I love playing with the Sons. I love playing with Wonderground, and I go out occasionally. Especially, we're going to go to Peru and Bolivia just to do 5 songs with it's a formerly of kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Me, Alice Liggett Wood's doing it. Frank Cosmo sings some Boston songs. And, I'll sing a couple of Chicago songs. I'll sing a couple of my own Grammy Award winners and just perform with the band that we're putting together. And, make some pretty good money doing it, get a decent seats down and back. And I'm figuring that's all I want to do. And the 4th band, I had to let something go. And I just thought, I think Danny and those guys will be able to hold up quite well without me. So, which they're doing. Travis is coming to the ball game and singing his ass off. So it's working out pretty well for those guys. And that way I stay really good friends with them. Let me get out of here before I start getting ugly.
And the most important,
because it can get ugly.
But the most important thing is you hanging out with your wife at this point in time, man. When it comes down to it.
Well. When I was out of Chicago, I just kind of went, okay, I'm going to start putting together some stuff and do my music. Because I've been making albums all along. And my deal with Chicago, everybody's deal with Chicago, you can make solo albums all you want. Now, the underwritten thing about that is just don't make good ones. So that kind of got me. Yeah, and my first solo album I did was Burn Down the Night that was co-produced by me and Greg Matheson. Think that came off? Luke was all over it. You think that one came off?
Yeah.
Awesome record. Just beautiful record. Tommy Vaccari was engineering. We brought in the big guns for that thing. And, at the same time, that Chicago was going on. So, and, I have a tendency to write about things that I live with. And I think that pretty much the day, within a few days after I was fired, the No Place Left to Fall solo album was released in the United States.
Right.
And there's a song on it that's pretty pointed to one of the members of those guys, and it's snide as hell. It was a great piece of music, but it's just one of those things I pretty much made my bed and had to sleep in that one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Bill, I got to write what I got to write.
But Bill, you're that guy. You're not going to do it someone else's way. And that's I like people like that. I'm like that because, when it comes down to it, you got to go to bed and look in the mirror at night and say, hey man, whatever, I'm okay. I didn't hurt anybody and I did the right thing for me. And, and that's important.
That's the move. Well, it's funny, Carmen, there's a guy that's writing it's going to be a pretty major book about the Sons, just basically from the beginning all the way through. He's had interviews with everybody that ever played with the band, interviews with family of guys that have passed away. He's been deep in it. He's one of his researchers. And he was talking to Carmen, and he said, well, what's the story between Terry Haggerty and Bill Champlin? Because everybody thought of the Sons as like it's really a combination of the two guys. Bill and his songs and Terry and his playing, his guitar playing. And Carmen said, well, I think the real difference between me and Terry is that Terry just refused to follow. He's not a follower. He only wants it the way he wants it. And if you're doing the Sons, the guy to follow is the guy who's writing all these songs and arranging all these tunes. He says, I know that. He said, when I do my own band, I'm that guy, but when I'm doing this band, Bill's that guy. And the best way to make the band really work is to do exactly that. So even a band leader, there's more to it than just the term band leader.
Yeah, of course.
You have to lead.
Yeah, you got to lead, man.
You know, and Terry, as good as Terry was, I mean, at one point the jam band thing started to really fly. Although I noticed that whenever we jammed, it would get jazzy real quick and fly right over the head of the jam-based audience.
Right.
They like the doodle stuff more than they like da da da. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so you know, Terry's going, "Oh man, the jam bass this and the jam bass that." And I'm going, it doesn't mean fuck all to me. I'm a songwriter. What the Sons are is songs, and then I'm enough of a player, and I know that I'm surrounding myself with really, really great players, that I make sure that I open up room for people to blow in my songs. But they're gonna be my songs. That was how it's gonna start, or even if not my song, any song. So you know, whether you write it, whether Tam wrote it, whether Carmen wrote it, whoever. But I want to make sure that it fits what I know the Sons to be. So we go ahead and do that. And I mean, we just added a new one last weekend of a song that Tamara, Dennis McCoskey, and Michael Caruso wrote. God, it had to be 20 years ago. But I just heard it on my iTunes and went, man, this is. And when they did it, I happened to be in town. I was on the road. I happened to be in town. They were doing it in Nashville. Could you sing this? I said, sure. So I banged off a vocal on it. Then I heard it, you know, maybe a month ago. I went, oh shit, this is gas. Let's do this with the Sons. Wrote a little bridge to it, made it ours kind of. And we just performed it last weekend, and everybody loves the song. So it's like sometimes it just works that way, you know?
Yeah. Bill, I'm going to ask you one more question, and I'm going to let you go. And I can't thank you for everything. Biggest change in your personality over the last 10 years, and has it been intentional or just a process of aging?
Medical shit will change you.
In what way?
It's simple as that. Well, I mean, I got out of that band. So the one of the changes is that if I'm working with people, I work with people that are not going to look at me badly when I do well.
Right. That's pretty important. Change. You know, you want to work with people that are really supportive of you to do well. Because you generally can't do well without that support. Everybody needs, you know.
Well, I can. I mean, I can just, but I don't want to have to fight through it all the time. It's like, I'm not going to put 13s on my guitar because I can't play them.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to do it because Stevie Ray Vaughan did it. I'm going to put the strings on my guitar that I need to put on my guitar.
Right.
That I can play, what I'm about, and that's kind of what it really all comes down to. Is basically, I mean, we don't have we're not making the money we used to make, but we're doing. Tamara's been in the real estate scene quite a bit. Certain things that have come down, and so I mean, your personality is a lot of times going to be dependent a little bit on what your income is.
Yes. At
some level, and I just kind of learned to not need as much as I used to think I needed.
Good for you, man.
I don't need. I have to have a Bentley. Really, I want two.
I hear you, man.
Like, well, no, I'm fine with a Ford Edge. It gets the job done. There's room to schlep. Yeah, fine. Let's just. I mean, I just maybe a little more acceptant of certain things.
Good for you, man. Probably less stressful.
There's plenty of stress to go around. I mean, especially with just the medical stuff that you got to deal with. I mean, I got to go do another ablation, which is going into the hospital again. There's one. I've got an A flutter, so I got to do it. It's an easy thing to do. Probably just take a day.
Right.
But a month before. For the whole month, you're worried about it.
You're sitting it's up in your head. Yeah, man, I totally get that.
And trying to get my head to stop thinking.
Not easy.
Good luck.
Well, man.
I mean, what is somebody said? You got sun and moon and Gemini and 7 planets. So you're just visiting.
Listen, man, I can't thank you enough. Let me tell people, I want to turn them on to your music. Everybody, check out Bill's new record. It's Bill Champlin and Wonderground, WUNDER ground, and Bill's last name is Champlin, CHAMPLIN. If you've not heard of the Sons of Champlin, please go check them out. Just some, really great.
You can get the album with Bill Champlin. Tamara?
Yeah, let's sell something.
There's a website, I think it's billchamplin.com /shop. and
Great.
and then you can order the album. It's a PayPal bit of business, and we'll either Chandler and I'll throw it in an envelope and send it in the mail.
Awesome. And it's called Bleeding Secrets. And if you want to start checking out some songs, Light Up the Night, I like Bleeding Secrets, the title, Evangeline, some great songs on there. Imaginary Friend, they don't make them like they used to. And if you want to hear Bill singing, check out Genius, because he is one. And man, I wish you nothing but good health, most importantly. You know.
Great. Well, thank you so much. It's great to hang. I mean, Ed wasn't wrong. He said, "Bill, you're gonna love this guy."
Man, thank you. That was really kind of you. I really appreciate you, man. Thank you for everything. All right.
Okay, and if you wake up tomorrow and that 335 behind me is gone, you know the first place to call.
Well, hang on. Let me wrap this up and we'll connect. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this interview, please share it with on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. Thanks so much to Bill Champlin, and I appreciate spending time with us. Bill, nothing but everybody wish Bill best of health, and check out the new record, Bleeding Secrets, Bill Champlin and Wonderground. Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com, sign up to get on our newsletter list so you and I can connect. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out.